Hello again, everyone. Welcome to 90s to Now. I'm Jerry Strauss. And folks, we have an amazing conversation for you this time out because if you are a fan of this show, y- I'm going to guess you most likely know our guest best from his role in the American Pie franchise as Paul Finch. But we're going to talk about a project, a show, a play that if you have a chance to see it, we've still got a limited window for you to do so. You're going to see this gentleman in an entirely new and different light. And so excited to talk about it. EDDIE K. Thomas, how are you, man?
Good, man. So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I know things are busy. Right off the bat, I want to talk about The Wanderers. It's going on in New York City right now. April 2nd is it's the finale, right? It's the last date that you could see
Yeah,
this show.
we've been up since mid-January, and
Yeah.
we have 2 more weeks of shows.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, right off the bat, folks, if you are anywhere within reach of New York City and have any sort of opportunity to make your way to New York to see this show, I highly recommend that you do so. It's at Harold and Miriam Steinberg Center for Theater, playing in the Laura Pels Theater, I believe, and presented by the Roundabout Theater Company. It's called The Wanderers, and again, what an amazing powerful but intimate show. It's yourself, it's Sarah Cooper, it's Dave Klasko, it's Lucy Freyer, and of course Katie Holmes as well. What about this story, this play, drew you to the project? Because it's such a cool story.
Mostly just the writing, how beautifully written it was, and I mean, for me, it was kind of the dreamiest role an actor could ever play. I, 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 I get to do so many things that I've always wanted to do, and with such an incredible group, doing it at Roundabout. Such an incredible theater company in New York, and with such a great cast. There was no way I wasn't going to do this. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's and for me personally, it's interesting because I'm a dad, so for the last 12 years or so, whether it's TV, whether it's stage, whatever the case may be, I feel like I've mostly consumed sci-fi stuff, fantasy stuff, cartoons, like things where the universe might be coming to an end. But to kind of out of nowhere see this show, and the story is just about real human drama that is relatable to an adult, and relationships and things that you can experience and go through. I mean, there were moments, without giving too much away, but there were moments that were kind of swerves in this play that were as terrifying as anything I've ever seen in a $200 million film. I mean, this is like sheer terror that one can actually relate to. Do you
Yeah,
feel that, like, from your
yeah,
end? And
absolutely. And thank you so much for saying that. You know, the main driving storyline of the show is this internet romance I have with the character Katie Holmes plays. Katie Holmes shockingly plays a beautiful movie star. I'm an award-winning writer who she starts emailing with, and we start this relationship that gets more and more hot and heavy as the play goes on. And that's something that we obviously all have some relationship to. Me and you are talking online right now. We're
yeah,
having a conversation, and we're not in the same room, and we're having a relationship without being together. And that's a big part of our lives right now. And then this relationship starts to interfere with the actual relationships in my life. And yeah, I think maybe some of that terror you're feeling is because this is ever present in our lives right now.
yeah.
The character I play is a father, and has a very successful career, and we learn a lot about his family throughout the show. Um, and it's wild how this virtual world is infringing on our real experience so much.
Yeah.
Uh, and and virtual experiences have real consequences. And yeah, we don't need giant special effects or $200 million budgets to tell stories that affect us and change us. A lot of people that have seen the show um, have had really powerful, moving conversations with me afterwards about some of the things it brought up. So it's really nice to do that without a $200 million budget.
Well, look, I mean, you are no stranger to the stage, of course. And a lot of people, again, so many who'd be watching this show, I think we're going to learn a little bit more about you and everything that you've done. You've been on stage since you were like 7 years old, right? Um,
Yeah, I grew up in New York, and started acting as a little tiny person, and uh, yeah, so I was just doing a lot of stage, and I've continued to do ever since.
does that kind of still inform your comfort level because you've done movies, you've done TV, you've done all these different things, but does coming back to the stage always feel a little bit like coming home?
Yeah, I it, it's actually in a lot of ways just a different thing completely than making a movie or a TV show. I don't think there's a skill to making movies and TV shows that is not applicable to stage. You are on set for 12, 14, 15 hours a day, and might be on camera for 30 or 40 minutes
Yeah.
of that. And you got to learn how to make sure you save it for there, but also kind of stay up and stay ready to go. Whereas, I do this play, and we're doing 8 shows a week, and it's a very intense role to do 8 times a week. But I know that I'm going on at 7:30 and my at night, and so I know my day is built towards that. And I think doing stage kind of teaches you how to do it without a net, and you get so used to doing a TV show or a movie where you're like, if I mess up, they're gonna fix it later.
Yeah.
There's no fixing it later when it's happening in front of your eyes.
Yeah. It's interesting because again, you've done so many different things. You've been, you know, big successful movies and popular TV shows and such. Does there come a point in your career, and you mentioned the writing in The Wanderers, does there come a point in your career where it's very decipherable, like, okay, like I'm kind of done chasing wanting to do the big movie or trying to do this genre of TV show, and now I just want to do things that are good, things that speak to me? Like, do your priorities kind of get to shift because you've already kind of crossed off all these things?
I mean, as an actor, that's a real privilege to get to choose that. And I've been a very, very blessed human and actor that I've gotten to make a living as an actor my entire life.
Mhm.
But I also always live in terror of, am I ever going to be able to do it again? And thankfully, in my 40s now, that terror has subsided. Just because the terror doesn't do anything for me. Being terrified that I'm never going to work again is not going to help me work again. And
Right.
um, yeah, before I did The Wanderers, I worked on last year. I did the current season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that's coming up. That'll start airing in a few weeks,
Oh, cool.
uh, and that was kind of one of the first times in a while that I was working on something that I was so proud of, and it was such a beautiful thing. And with every department was incredible, and I was like, I like being a part of things I believe in quite a bit. And I've done TV shows and movies that I love working on. I'm very proud of, but they're fun. I worked on a show called Scorpion for 4 seasons. That was a blast, and I'm so proud of it. It's beautiful, but it's a fun TV show. It's not high art, and it's
Right.
there to have a great time watching. The American Pie movies, I couldn't be more proud of, but I wouldn't call them high art. They're there to watch a movie, have a great time, maybe learn something, but it's entertainment, which is very important in the world. Um, and doing Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and then this play has really tickled my fancy artist bone, if you will. And I would be honored if I could do more of it. but it's a very challenging career, and just getting to make a living as an actor is quite an accomplishment. And if I'm blessed to also do stuff I'm proud of, that's above and beyond.
That's great. That's great. We mentioned the show's cast, and we basically mentioned everyone in the cast. This is a very small, tight cast, which to me, on the outside, says that the chemistry between the cast is of the utmost importance. Like that's
Yeah.
what makes the show tick. How do you walk into something like this with, five or so people, this very diverse group of people, this small team, and create this amazing chemistry that we see on the stage every night?
The rehearsal process for the show, we rehearsed for a month, and uh, the show deals with some very intimate things, family trauma, um, relationships falling apart, children, childhood memories that come back to haunt us. Um, and there was, I don't know if there was blood, but there was a lot of sweat and tears in the rehearsal room. And our director, Barry Edelstein, led the charge with being as open and vulnerable as a human can be. And that just inspired all of us to do the same. And, we're working and we're rehearsing 6 days a week. And every time we went into that room, we just got so honest and vulnerable with each other. And what a lucky thing to do, just I almost wish as humans we could do that without rehearsing a play. Get in a room and talk about our real stuff. And once you do that for a few weeks, you can't help but have a very special love and connection with each other. And then we get to do this beautiful show 8 times a week, that people share in. We have 500 people in the audience every night, and it feels like a real conversation with 500 strangers every night.
Mm.
That's a beautiful thing. And on the one hand, it's this intimate experience that the five of us are having, and then on the other hand, it's 505 people sharing in a moment, which is a really cool thing. You just don't get to do that on Netflix, and you don't get to do that in a movie theater. And nothing against Netflix or movie theaters, that's a wonderful experience too. But being in a live theater and sharing an emotion and experience together, alone in a room, is completely unique. And yeah, I'm so grateful after a couple of years not being able to do it because of COVID that we get to do it. And I also think because of lockdown, because we haven't been able to be together for so long, now that we're able to do it again, it creates something even more electric and exciting amongst the five of us in the cast and the entire audience, that we're like, oh my God, we're doing the thing.
Yeah.
You know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And we all miss this thing so much. And now we get to do it. And I think audiences have that same excitement.
Yeah, I think the appreciation is there. It's definitely mutual among anyone who's lucky enough to be in that room. Again, The Wanderers is chugging fast towards its finale. April 2nd is the last opportunity to see it, so you want to make those plans to see it ASAP and make sure that you give yourself that experience. Eddie, I want to mention just a few people because again, there's so many people who may not be familiar with all the things you've done and all the people that you've been able to work with. So I want to just kind of run down a few names of people whom you've worked with. And if you just want to throw any just first thought that comes to mind, or memories or stories, or what they may think, what their experience might be working with you, whatever pops in your head. And the first one, we're going to start off in the present. You mentioned her. She is another one of the all-star team that is this team behind the Wanderers. Of course, Katie Holmes. What's that experience been like? That dynamic between you two.
Uh, so me and Katie knew each other a tiny bit 100 years ago. We're doing 90s to now right now.
Right.
And in the 90s, probably maybe more like 2000, 2001, we knew each other a bit. And it's just been incredible to see each other living, now we're just living completely different lives. And to get to know her, and to have taken this journey together without being together. I hadn't seen her in 20 something years. It's incredible. And getting to know her, I've started to understand now why people love her so much. She has a sweetness and a generosity that is very unique and very special, and I think that comes across in all the work she does. Obviously, she's beautiful, but that's not why she became so famous. There's a warmth to her that is very real, and yeah, it's really cool to get to know her.
Yeah. Um, Flip side, let's go back. Those who follow your career know that you were already on a Broadway stage before you were of voting age. 17 years old, The Diary of Anne Frank. You were on stage with Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
What was that like back then?
So I was actually, it was Barry Van Frank, and I was the understudy for Peter, the other young man in the show.
Mhm.
But I was also a Nazi at the end of the show. So every night I would go on as a Nazi, and my though I was a Nazi, I was the one that saved the diary at the end of the show. So Anne would try to leave the attic, and I had to smack Natalie Portman across the face, and she would drop the diary, hold her out. So as evil as a person could be, but a hero because I saved the diary. And but then I got to go on for a couple weeks, and yeah, Natalie back then, she was doing the Diary of Anne Frank on Broadway, taking AP classes in high school. I think scored 10,000 on her SATs, and again, that thing that came across in Beautiful Girls and The Professional, and then all the work she would do after with Star Wars and Garden State and all that. There's a genuine amazingness about that woman that she's able to convey in every role she plays, and I had a gigantic crush on her. I got to kiss her in the show, which was probably the highlight of being 17.
All right. Well, I don't think we're going to hear the same story about this next name, but I have to imagine you've worked with this dude more than anybody else in your career. The American Pie movies, Harold and Kumar movies, the sitcom Off Center. John Cho is a guy you've worked with many, many times. What was that like? Because you guys seem to have been attached at the hip for years.
Yeah, there was a while where we wouldn't, like, every year we would do something together. Then I was on a show that he used to guest star on, and yeah, he wound up in American Pie because when we did the table read, he was doing whenever you do a table read of a script, there's always like a lot of parts that have one line, guy athlete who has one line, or someone who shouts something passing by, or whatever. So he was just, usually have a man and a woman doing all those one line parts, and he was doing all those,
Hmm.
and he killed. He was just as utility of a player as you could, and they're like, we got to give this guy something else. So they gave him that part of what became MILF guy. It was the guy who chants MILF.
Right.
And man, he's just a lesson in there are no small parts. I have a friend at the theater now who just got a few lines in a TV show. He's not an actor in the show. He does something else at the theater, but and I was like, that's great. And he's like, it's just a few lines. And it's like, yeah, but like, if you get the part, you get it for a reason, and then you have the opportunity to show yourself. And now John Cho is as big of a movie star as can be, and yeah, I admire him, and am so proud to know him.
Yeah. Um, you've got more sitcom work in your history than I think a lot of people realize. But one of the highlights there has to have been 2 seasons on a show on Fox called Till Death, alongside a guy who I'd have to call a TV comedy icon at this point in Brad Garrett. What was it like to kind of I don't know if you'd consider it sitting under his learning tree, but being able to work alongside him sort of in the environment where he really became such a big name.
Yeah, well, We Till Death was his first thing after Everybody Loves Raymond. So Raymond ended, and then they were like, we got to get this guy another show, and we did Till Death. And he's a stand-up.
Yeah.
He's just he likes to stand up and make people laugh. And yeah, him and a lot of other people I've been lucky enough to work with, taught me the hard work and discipline of comedy. And the hard work happens before you do the comedy, which is really great. I learned that from Eugene Levy too. That like that guy's serious and passionate and hardworking about his comedy, and Brad Garrett's the same way. Once he gets up and he's performing, then he can be light and loose. But you come and you do your preparation, and you're willing to fail, and you put yourself out there, and then it pays dividends. And sometimes it's a lot of falling on your face, and not getting the laugh. But by the time Brad would be in front of an audience or we'd be doing the show, he could be pretty sure that he was going to get the laughs. So it was, yeah, quite an education.
Cool. Last name I want to mention. This is someone who, I think over the last couple of years through White Lotus and other projects, the world has suddenly come late to the party and realized how talented is. But I think you, and the scenes you did with her back in the original American Pie showed the world how funny she was for the first time for many people. Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, what I think is so incredible about Coolidge, and this goes along with what I was saying about John Cho as well, is she didn't even work one full day on American Pie. Half a day. We shot all her stuff after lunch one day. It's one scene, or maybe it's two scenes, and she's so good that it seems like this huge, big, powerful thing that had to take a long time. But she came in, she did it, and she had done her training at the Groundlings, and she was so well prepared and so brilliant. And again, it's just another lesson, and I think it goes far beyond acting. Like, you don't have to be playing Hamlet in a big, huge movie to make an impression. And Jennifer Coolidge, everywhere she goes, leaves her mark. And she's so truthful. And the work she does on White Lotus is so vulnerable. And God, even just like saying it now breaks my heart a bit. The longing and the sweetness and the love and the loneliness and the passion, it's hilarious, but it comes from such truth. And God, even as Stifler's mom, like there was just something so honest about it that makes us laugh. We don't, it's not just great because she's this older woman who seduces a younger man. It's great because she does it. And she does it with honesty and vulnerability to this ridiculous storyline. And God, talking about it now, it's just like inspiring as an actor that like, all the people that you mentioned, they bring themselves to the part. Brad Garrett, the work he did on Raymond, Until Death, even those like Jimmy John's commercials he's doing right now, like there's just an honesty and a truthfulness about it. And John Cho, everything he does, and Coolidge, it's unfortunately it doesn't get to happen to everyone the way it
Yeah.
happened to her, and it's nice that it does happen sometimes. And she really deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm going to avoid probably the most common question you would ever get asked in a show like this, which is, of course, is there going to be another American Pie movie? I'm not going to ask that. But instead, I want to go in a different direction because I know that, clearly we've learned you're very analytical. You think about your characters, you think about story. Um, where do you think, were there to be another American Pie movie, say next year, catching up in real time where these people are in their lives? Where do we catch up with Paul Finch? Where is he in 2023, 2024?
Well, I will answer the question that you kindly didn't ask, and I really appreciate your thoughtfulness with that. Well, I will answer it in saying that I am you will find out before I will, which was true with Reunion. I remember someone said to me, was like, they're making another one, and I'm like, no, they're not. I think I know. And then like they were like, no, look at this thing online. I was like, oh my God. just read something online. They hired this young woman to write another one, and I don't know if it's going to happen. And so I am as hired of a hand as the craft service people or the cameraman. They'll call. Um, and I say that because I also feel that way about Finch. I am very proud of the work I did,
Mm.
and I feel like I embodied this guy, but it's not my guy. You know, I didn't write that and I didn't create it, and I would not have done as good of a job with the storylines as they have. And Adam Hers and uh, John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, who wrote and directed the last one. Um, you know, Adam wrote the first three, and John Hayden wrote the fourth one. They're the ones that'll have a better idea about Paul Finch than me, and I'm always like along for the ride. And I was just having this conversation yesterday that, you know, I was talking about Sylvester Stallone creating Rocky, and I believe he's not getting compensated for Creed. I don't know. There's just
Yeah.
something going on with that. And I was having, they were like, "Well, do you get paid for Paul Finch?" I was like, "I didn't create him. I just like played it. I don't deserve like ownership of that character.
Right.
Maybe somebody else will play the character one day." Um, I would never think that I could guess it. And also, like, if they do make another American Pie, I don't know if it should be us. I mean, I would love to do it, but I'd also, we're in such a different world right now that it
Mm.
would be so, we're in such a different world where I'm pretty sure teenagers are still sexual. So
Yes.
I think it would be fascinating to hear that same story in 2023. And you know, that original movie, I think touched on the embarrassment, the vulnerability, the scariness, the fun, and the terror of being 17. And I'd be interested in what that's like right now. I hope I didn't just write myself out of a huge paycheck,
Yeah.
but my honest answer is I'd be more interested in that than seeing Finch and Jim chasing kids around a backyard being fought. But maybe there's a good story there too. Like I'd watch Jason Biggs fall on his face any day of the week, so I'd be happy
Absolutely.
with that.
Hey, we all would. We all
Yeah.
would. Well, let's talk about you then, because as far as you're going, we know again, the Wanderers, where we see the end of the line, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Unfortunately, but what is next? Do you have any projects for certain on the horizon, or is there anything just
Nothing.
more in general or broad that you're looking to hopefully do? Maybe something new, something different, just anything on your list for the
I,
next.
nothing going on. Thankfully, I have Marvelous Mrs. Maisel coming out in April, I think.
Mhm.
And then I'm just a working man, gonna see if I can get another job. And to be honest, I'm excited about it. You know, I'd love to tell you, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing, and that would be lovely too. And then there's also you know, the openness of the unknown. You know, I might start, you know, trying to be a carpenter, or maybe to do something else. I don't know. I
I
might
don't
be.
know why the term woodworking just popped in my head 5 seconds before you said carpenter. I think there's something in the ether here. Maybe
Like,
that's
I'll be Amazoning some woodworking books. But to be honest, this play, as you know, has been quite a thing to do 8 times a week. So I have a huge spa appointment booked for April 3rd, the day after we wrap.
mm,
And, you know, and ending a play like this, you know, Lucy Freyer, who's in our show, she's a Juilliard graduate, and she talked about at Juilliard, when they would finish a play at Juilliard, they would do an exercise where they would say goodbye to their characters. And you know, that could sound corny or like Daniel Day-Lewis methody, but I actually am going to need to do that, because this is, however real it's been in me, it's been something that I've been doing 8 times a week for 2.5 months and another month of rehearsal. So I think for my own mental health, I'm going to have to like do some sort of ceremony to say goodbye to this and not go through the intense thing that I've been going through every night. And then we'll see what happens.
cool. Cool. Well, we can't wait to see what you do next. But for now, again, we're going to get this show out as soon as possible. So you guys have every opportunity. It's the Roundabout Theater Company presenting The Wanderers. It's on till April 2nd at the Harold and Miriam Steinberg Center for Theater. The Laura Pels Theater is the place. And put it in your schedule. Make
Yeah.
sure you get a chance to see this man and see this show because it's absolutely worth the trip
If
and
you
worth
just
your time.
Google Roundabout Theater Wanderers, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone that's interested, I love sharing it with people. So hopefully people
Awesome.
have it.
Great, great, great. Eddie, thank you. I know
Thank you so
8
much.
days a week you've been busy.
No, it's a real pleasure, and yeah, I really appreciate being on your show. Thank
Yeah,
you so
thank you. Thank you guys for joining us this time out here on 90s to Now. See you later,
much.
guys.